Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the news from SABA Satellite Channel from Matter. Here are tonight's top stories. Yemen and Saudi Arabia reaffirmed strategic partnership against Houthi threats. Interior Minister confirms armed forces and security forces united against Houthi coup. Houthi militia launches fresh missile and drone attacks on Marib and Mocha. Welcome back. In a key meeting today, Foreign Minister Dr. Afrah Al-Zuba met with Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan to discuss the strategic partnership between the two countries and the latest developments in Yemen and the region. Al-Zuba expressed Yemen's appreciation for Saudi Arabia's continued support, as well as the kingdom's assistance to the Yemeni community in Saudi Arabia. The two ministers also discussed strengthening institutional cooperation between their ministries, including benefiting from Saudi diplomatic expertise in training and developing Yemeni diplomatic personnel. The meeting focused extensively on latest Houthi escalation and its implication for Yemen, Saudi Arabia, and the wider region. Al-Zuba condemned Houthi attacks targeting Saudi territory and civilian and economic facilities, stressing that Yemen rejects any use of its territory or waterways as a platform for threatening neighboring countries or international maritime routes. She also condemned the militia's attacks on Yemeni state institutions, civilian and economic facilities and ports, particularly Mocha port, warning that targeting vital infrastructure expands the conflict and threatens both Yemen's economic interest and regional maritime security. For his part, the Saudi Foreign Minister reaffirmed the kingdom's steadfast support for the Presidential Leadership Council, the Yemeni government, and the Yemeni people, and for Yemen's security, stability, unity, and sovereignty. Interior Minister Major General Ibrahim Haidan said the armed forces and security forces are fighting a united national battle to defend the republic, protect state institutions, and safeguard the security, stability of the Yemeni people. Haidan said the two institutions are now more cohesive and united than ever in confronting the Houthi coup and terrorism, stressing that the Houthi militia is no longer facing a particular front or region, but the Yemeni people, state institutions, and national forces as a whole. He said the militia's recent attack on civilians, vital facilities, and displacement camps reflect its growing desperation and failure to achieve its objectives on the battlefield. Haidan reaffirmed that the armed and security forces, alongside popular resistance and other national forces, are committed to ending the coup and restoring state authority across Yemen. He also warned against allowing Iran to turn Yemen into a platform for threatening regional and international security, stressing that unity of state institutions and national ranks will ultimately lead to the defeat of what he described as the Iranian project and the restoration of Yemen's security and stability. In Marib, the Houthi militia launched a fresh attack on residential areas, firing 6 ballistic missiles and 4 drones. According to the Marib Governorate Media Office, the attack wounded civilians and damaged homes, vehicles, and other private property. The office condemned the escalation as part of the Houthi militia's continued targeting of civilian facilities, warning that such attacks put residents and their property at risk and violate international humanitarian law. It called on the international community and humanitarian and human rights organizations to condemn the attacks and document violations targeting residential areas, displacement camps, and civilian facilities in Marib. In Taiz, the Houthi terrorist militia launched a fresh attack against Mocha, firing 6 ballistic missiles and 6 drones at the city and its residential areas. Military media said ground-based air defenses intercepted and destroyed 2 Houthi drones, while rescue teams continued field operations to assess the damage caused by the attack, particularly in residential neighborhoods and civilian facilities. The attack is part of a continuing series of Houthi strikes targeting Mocha and its port, as authorities maintain a heightened state of readiness to respond to any further attacks. And a major escalation on the front lines, the armed forces carried out 181 military operations over the past 24 hours, using drones, artillery, and rocket launchers against Houthi military positions and sources of threat across multiple combat sectors. Armed Forces spokesman Colonel Majid al-Nuzaili said the operations killed and wounded dozens of Houthi militia fighters and destroyed dozens of military vehicles and pieces of equipment, as well as weapons, depots, and other military assets. He said the strikes targeted military positions, firing points, and capabilities used by the Houthi militia to carry out hostile operations along the front lines. And Nuzaili said the armed forces maintain the capability and readiness to identify and neutralize sources of threat according to the operational requirements and directives from the military command. He stressed that the operations were conducted with a high level of operational discipline in accordance with rules of engagement and international humanitarian law, with precautions taken to protect civilians. The spokesman urged Yemenis to stay away from Houthi military sites, facilities, and gatherings and not to join the militia, warning against allowing civilians in their areas to be used in support of what he described as Iran's agenda in Yemen and the region. In a related context, 3 Houthi militia fighters were killed and others wounded, including field commanders and drone strikes carried out by the Yemeni armed forces against Houthi gatherings and vehicles in Maqbana district west of Taiz. Military sources told SABA news agency that the strikes were conducted as part of coordinated field operations. The first strike targeted a Houthi vehicle in a Zuhaib mountain, destroying it and killing several militia members. Second strike targeted a Houthi checkpoint in a Zulal and Al Aryuf area, killing and wounding additional militia members. That was the news bulletin from SABA Satellite Channel from Marib. Thank you for watching and have a good time.